Hello and welcome to Bitcoin with Jake. This is actually take two with Cory Tucek. Welcome, Cory. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm
Now
good.
we're
I'm good. A moment of panic as my daughter has switched on the kettle or something and short-circuited the Wi-Fi. So we'll have a crack at the intro. Luckily, we weren't too far in. Yeah. So as I mentioned, could you let us know a bit about the projects you're involved in today, and then we're going to cycle back and work out what brought you to this point.
yeah. So right now I have Movies Plus is a streaming platform that I have. It's called Movies Plus, and you can check it out, in the app stores, everything like that. But we're a freedom of speech maximalist platform. So I'm a Bitcoin maxi and a freedom of speech maxi. I like to say, and so we're fiercely defending the First Amendment here in the United States, but whatever amendment or whatever role it is in other countries to give people a voice, because a lot of people are getting silenced, and so we wanted to make sure we were standing out against that. So that's it's a streaming platform that will take down Netflix and all those woke companies one at a time.
Awesome. And I know you have a podcast as well, Bitcoin Made Simple.
Yes, yeah. Bitcoin Made Simple is my podcast. I started that to specifically just learn about Bitcoin more myself. And I was like, I'm sure like many people listening to many podcasts about Bitcoin, which is great that there's always, a plethora of podcasts because there's never too much to learn. And so I was like, I want to talk to these people and ask them questions and learn. I was like, if I'm going to do that, I might as well record it, so that kind of how that came about. And, so it's been fun, and, we've kind of made a little network out of it, and continue to go. So that's my hobby project. And, yeah, but my day job is, I'm the CEO, but it's funny, I say CEO, but we have such a small team that like I also do payroll, and a lot of the accounting and human resources, a little customer support, all that good stuff.
Awesome. So talk to me more about Movies Plus then. So as an entrepreneur, you're setting this business up. At the very core, you're solving problems. So what is the high level problem that you're solving?
Well, it started with actually a pro-Trump movie, which people will think that means I'm this like huge Trump supporter, and that's not the case. I'm like probably, at this point just so pushed into libertarian, they're all corrupt, mode. So I can't really think I can't really get behind anybody. But there was I was kind of growing tired with the woke mob silencing everyone and taking away their voice. And I think that that's, so powerful, like to be able to empower people and give them a voice. Because I look at it this way: with life and with the people's freedoms and their ability to use their voice, it's not my right to take it away from someone. So it's not my right to decide whether or not somebody lives or dies. It's not my right to decide whether or not somebody is allowed to have freedom of thought. It's not my right to choose whether or not they can be heard. I don't have to listen to them, but it's not my right. It's not anybody's right to take that away from them. So, fundamentally, that's kind of, I mean, for 6, 7 years. So to back up a little bit, I guess we'll kind of we'll take my film career in reverse. But what led to that beforehand was I was a sales agent, which is somebody who acquires the rights to movies, sells them to Amazon, Netflix, wherever, and gets the royalties and, all that kind of stuff. So I would go around to the major film festivals all over the world, to Berlin, Cannes Film Festival in France, and, out to LA, Toronto. I mean, you name it, I've been there. And, going in and out of all these meetings, and it's just this like woke, mob that like, it was just really, really hard for me to deal with. And I had to like put a smile on and like, pretend like I was totally okay with like everybody that would just sit there and just, like crap all over anything that was, not with the Hollywood agenda. So fast forward to whenever I'm thinking about Movies Plus, didn't even have the name for it, but it was like, okay, the writing was on the wall. I was like, sales agents are dinosaurs. Like back in the day, people, sales agents used to show up to these markets and film festivals, and people would buy the movie for a minimum guarantee because it would make X number of dollars. There was a formula. If you put it on the front shelf, like if you put it on one of the front shelves of Blockbuster, it would make X number of dollars. So and it had, if it had Nicolas Cage on it, it would make X number of dollars. So you could offer Y to the filmmaker, and there you go. So that was kind of falling apart. I saw that. I knew there wasn't a future in that. So I wanted to make a streaming platform, and I started thinking about different ways. And freedom of speech was really what I was focused on. So then in late summer of 2020, this pro-Trump movie came to me called The Plot Against the President, and they were worried about getting censored. And I said, well, you're definitely going to get censored. Like, there's no doubt about it. And they said, well, is there a platform that won't censor us? And, can you guarantee that there won't be one? And I was like, I have my own platform that I was going to roll out next summer, but I can fast track it and get it ready for the first week of October, and we'll go. And they were like, yeah, let's do it. So, and I was like, and I guarantee you I won't take it down because I'm the one that owns it. And so then I got off the phone and I'm like, okay, what's this company going to be called? What's this streaming platform? And I started thinking like, and I had known how to develop it and put it together and create it, but it was way off into the future of what I was going to do. It was 12 months away. And so I'm like putting my son to bed, and I'm laying there thinking in the quiet, and I'm like, Movies Plus. And I was like, that has to exist already. That has to exist.
Yeah. Come on, get that on .com. Forget it. Yeah.
Exactly. So I start looking, and there's no Movies Plus streaming service. There is moviesplus.com, goes to some like website that I've tried to get it from them, but they don't even, it's just this like dead website. So mymoviesplus.com was available, but so I go downstairs, from a branding perspective, Movies Plus, nobody's used that name. So I go downstairs, I tell my wife, I'm like, Movies Plus. And she goes, that has to be used. No, I promise you. And so we both like start looking, so then Movies Plus was born. Quickly rendered out the logo and everything like that, and slapped together in the matter of like 3 weeks, as fast as I could, a streaming platform. Released the Plot Against the President on there, and it was funny because I was pretty sure that it was going to get censored, and I publish movies to Amazon and everyone else, deliver movies to the big streaming platforms. That was my job. That's what I did for a living. And we deliver the movie to Amazon, and it sits in like in the processing. Like, you can watch the processing, and it had been reviewed and processed. And usually it would take like a day, and then they would just make sure the file was good, and boom, it was available. And it sat there for like 2 weeks. And, the filmmakers are asking me like, why isn't it available? Why isn't it available? I was like, I've never seen this before, but like we discussed, you're probably getting censored. So then all of a sudden, the Hollywood Reporter contacts me and is like, what's going on with this Trump movie being censored? Which obviously this is like 2 or 3 weeks before the election. So, it was a hot topic for them. So I just kind of like riffed, and I had no idea. Like, the article, I ended up like being, I don't know, like quoted throughout the entire article. But I just was like, I just let them have it because I was sick of how, like freedom of speech was being trampled, and everything was, all of everything that the woke media, the woke companies were doing was flying in the face of freedom of speech. So yeah, I just I let it go. And I had a friend of mine that he like read it, and afterwards he said, did you have a publicist put that together? I said, no, actually, I was just like kind of in an anger filled like moment and just said everything that was on my mind. And afterwards I was like, oh, I hope that sounded good. So yeah, so it was funny. Then we release the article comes out, and magically within an hour of the article hitting the website on Hollywood Reporter, magically all of a sudden the movie's available on Amazon. So it's funny how that works. So yeah, so that kind of launched us. But then we
Corey, could I just
people,
quickly ask? Sorry, so I'm
yeah,
a little
sure.
confused as to how this actually functions. So there was a doesn't really matter what the movie is, but there was a movie that wanted to get published on a streaming platform. They were struggling to get any interest with anyone. You said, actually, I'm going to set up my own business, and you can stream it via me. Where does
Hmm.
Amazon come into that tech stack?
Oh, so yeah, so the company, my company, the parent company, Turnkey, um, is what the sales agency was selling movies.
Yep.
And then we have an aggregation business that like people come to us and pay us a flat fee, and we put the movie up on different streaming platforms.
Right. Okay.
And like iTunes,
Yeah. Okay.
wherever you can stream a movie, we get it there. So the so I said I will get them up there on all the other platforms that I can get it on, but it's probably going to get censored. And that's when they said, "What about, do you know anywhere that it won't censor?" So basically, I created Movies Plus, made it my own new platform, and then made it available as part of like the plethora of like our lineup of platforms that we put
Yep.
them on.
Yep.
But for
And
a brief
so
period of
the
time, it was the only one on. It was the only one that had it.
I see. Sorry. So you'd as an aggregated business, you added Movies Plus. You
Hmm.
posted that on Movies Plus, and all the other platforms slash Amazon specifically didn't for some reason. And it wasn't until the article came out that they then suddenly did. Okay, cool.
Hmm.
I've caught up. Understood. Because
Okay.
one of my main questions to this whole freedom of speech thing is, of course, critical. But some of the issues we've seen in recent times is, the App Store is willing to literally just take you off it, right?
Yep.
The
Yeah.
AWS might be your server backend, and they'll just switch you off. So I'm intrigued just as an entrepreneur how you plan to navigate that in the future. I mean, you have to in some ways use third-party providers to build your product, and if those parties are in some way corrupted, then is it possible to even build a truly freedom of speech platform? I'm sure you've thought about this a lot more than I have, so I'd love to understand a bit more about it. Like, what does that
Yeah.
process look like?
Yeah. Actually, that is also part of what made me become a Bitcoin maxi. But it actually, so yeah, I mean, I've looked at it from the beginning, and I'm like, you can, it doesn't matter. Like Parlay app, whatever, that was like the Twitter knockoff. That is a classic example because they banned Trump from Twitter, but he was on Parler, and then all of a sudden the app stores say, well, we're not going to list it in the app store, but they're still their own company. They have their own website. We can't shut them down. And then Amazon Web Services is like, well, we're not going to host them anymore. You know what I mean? So it's exactly as you described it, where it is a uh, you have so many attack vectors on freedom of speech. So the idea is to limit them. So I had this idea, and it's hardly like unique, but for a streaming platform, it made me start thinking about over the Bitcoin network we could have a decentralized server farm, because basically to host the movies, I need them to be on servers scattered across the world. And the way it works tech wise is the point of least resistance is how it gets to your house. So if you watch something on Netflix or Movies Plus, you call it up, and it sends you little 15-second data packs that is like, here's 15 seconds of the movie you're watching. The next 15 seconds is downloaded, buffered, ready to go. The third 15 seconds is buffering, and the fourth one is downloading. And that's a constant cycle while you're streaming. And it's constantly happening in the background, but you don't see it. That those files are coming from a server farm, and basically the point of least resistance between where that file is hosted, how it can get to you. So I started thinking about, it was really the Lightning Network when I, read the white paper for the Lightning Network, and I'm like, oh crap. I'm like, this could be done over Bitcoin. And so I was like thinking about the idea for a while. And then I had Ben Ark come on. He does LN Bits. And he's kind of like an inventor, and does all kinds of stuff on the Lightning Network. And I talked to him, and he's like, oh yeah, it's totally possible. And then I've been like texting with John Carvalho, and he's, asking questions, because basically it's running over Tor, But like if you run a Bitcoin node and you have, let's just say you have a 10 terabyte node or a 1 terabyte, 5 terabytes, whatever it is, you could, in theory, download all of the movies from Movies Plus, host them, and then over the Lightning Network, you be the person that serves the video file. So, like, if your neighbor is watching, then you're the one hosting it, and it's done through Tor, so it's private. But on the Lightning Network, something that Ben Ark was saying, with like a hash function, I don't understand. I'm not the tech person, but you could attribute who served it and then actually pay them sats.
Mhm.
So like the money we pay server farms, we could then take that and say, okay, per data pack, we'll pay X number of sats, and then have Bitcoiners start hosting the files. And then if that works, I mean, it can work. So we need to, start building it slowly, and put it in place and grow it over the next maybe 4 to 5 years, so that in 5 years somebody can come to us and say, we're going to cancel Movies Plus, or we're going to cancel, whatever streaming platform it is. And we're going to say, good luck, you can't. Like I want my goal is for somebody to come to me and say, that movie offended me. I want it erased from all servers and not be able to be played on Movies Plus. And for me to be able to say, I literally can't delete it. Like, I don't know who all the nodes are. I don't know who's hosting it. It's private, and it's freedom of speech. That's what it is. It's true decentralized server farm that is, backing, is basically running over the Bitcoin network.
Wow. Absolutely epic. Build it, Cory. It is needed in this world today. I mean, what the fuck is going on around us? People can just switch off a TV show or switch off someone for saying the wrong thing on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, or you name it, right?
You can go on Twitter and
censorship
mute
has
a word.
been insane. Oh, I'm not sure about this vaccination. Below, if you would like to know about COVID-19 vaccines, click on this fact checker. Okay, what's the fact checker? Oh, it's run by Reuters. What's Reuters? Reuters is a centralized media business which has the same board director as Pfizer. Oh, yeah, cool. No worries, guys. Yeah, we trust the fact checker straight away. Fuck off. Like, it's just insane. So,
I mean,
build
nobody's
it,
using their logic. Oh yeah, I'm working on it. I mean, that's what, like, if anybody's out there listening, because I mean, as a company, we're doing well and we're growing, but it's like one of those things that, like, I'm really antsy to get that growing, and that requires capital. So if anybody is a VC in the Bitcoin world, oh, and also we do hold Bitcoin on our balance sheet, obviously, but we, if anyone's a VC that's interested, the only reason I'm interested is because it could fast track what I want to get done, which is basically this Lightning idea.
with capital.
That would bring things to the present, as opposed to it being something that probably is 9 months away from, like, actually sitting down and being like, all right, let's go. But or if just everybody that's listening signs up for Movies Plus, and we get to 1 million subscribers, I'll have no problem doing it. But it needs to be done. And the beautiful thing is, Ben, whenever I was talking to him about it, it was funny because I wanted to pitch the idea to him after the show. I was talking to him about this, like, point of sale device that he made that works without the internet, for Lightning payments. And then it ended up basically happening on the show. And he's like, yeah, you could end up, like, I could create on the dashboard when people go into their node, and all of a sudden Movies Plus would show up, and it's like, hey, host these files. And, like, you could click it and it would download everything. And obviously it would be protected and encrypted so people couldn't rip the movies out. And then all of a sudden, like, if it starts working really well, then, like, Netflix is going to look at it and go, wait a minute, we pay, like, I don't know, probably hundreds of millions of dollars at this point on server farms. We could cut that down by 95% if we made it available on the decentralized Movies Plus server farm that they've created. It's not something that we don't. I don't know what it would be called, But we could, they'd look at it and go, and obviously they wouldn't switch flip the switch immediately, but they would go, let's test it out, let's put some stuff on there. So all of a sudden one day, Ben was like, all of a sudden somebody could show up, go to their node homepage and see that Netflix was available. Do you want to start hosting Netflix files? Well, sure. Would you want to get paid sats to serve files to somebody next door that's watching Netflix? Absolutely. It's like costs you nothing, takes up a little bit of your bandwidth, but yeah, do it. And then all of a sudden, it basically is the free market working, where all of these platforms are going to go, you know what, it's cheaper to do it on this decentralized platform. Then we'll keep one server farm or a couple server farms to be a backup, but we're going to start migrating everything over to this decentralized. And then before you know it, the entire, they don't even actually have to migrate it. That's the beauty of it, is that they could start seeing that their traffic is mainly going through the decentralized server farm. So like if Netflix is like, hey, let me think about it, let me make it available, and all of a sudden there's plebs out there downloading and serving, and then all of a sudden they go, hey, this is working, and more people start talking about it, and they go, hey, the network effect, hey, download it, get a node, download it, you make money for serving files to somebody else. And then that's like a soft entry for people into Bitcoin, and vice versa. Then all of a sudden it just slowly eats the entire world of streaming and data, where even Twitter and everybody else is like, why would I use these server farms? Let me see if I can get implement it on people's private servers at home. And next thing you know, it just keeps going that way. It devours everything in the server farms are a thing of the past, and they maybe hold on to it just to have something as a backup in case there's a cataclysmic event. But yeah, that's the idea in a nutshell. And it's funny because that's what made me a Bitcoin maxi, is that I was basically a Bitcoin maxi from probably like summer of 2020. But I don't think I really knew it. Like I held one ETH, like I sold off anything else and was all into Bitcoin. And I was like, oh, I'll hold this ETH just in case it 100x's or whatever. You know what I mean? Like still just thinking, like, I don't know why I was thinking that way. Didn't really understand everything. So then fast forward, we make Movies Plus, and because of the Trump movie, it gets a lot of interest from people, and our seed investors came on board, or came on board, but we had people sniffing around, that wanted to invest, including the people that we ended up going with. But I started putting together the investor deck like late 2020, and I'm sitting there putting together this idea for the decentralized server farm and pitching it, like this is part of the company. And as I'm pitching it, I'm like, the idea was that it was going to be an ICO. It was going to be its own token. And the hash functions that would happen over Lightning, really at the time, I was like, well, obviously it would have to be like a Movies Plus coin, and people get paid in that. And then, it could benefit us greatly. And then I started thinking, I'm like, wait a minute. Like I read the Lightning Network's white paper, and I realized, I'm like, this could be done over Lightning. Like, why would I do it any other way? And I started thinking, okay, well, it's because of the ICO. Why would I do the ICO? And I realized the only reason to do the ICO and create something that's not Bitcoin is to enrich yourself. There's no other reason. And believe me, I would love to be rich. Like, who wouldn't want to have more money than they have? You know what I mean? But that didn't sit right with me. It's like, make money the right way. And so, I credit my parents for, giving me, I guess, values and in helping me realize that, like, wait a minute, all these other things are scams. They're just trying to take your money, and everything that's of any value that any of the shit coins do is going to be living on top of Bitcoin in the future. Case in point with Ethereum, where they were like, it needs to have faster payment, blah, 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 Bitcoin Cash, all that stuff. It needs to be quicker. And the Lightning Network, that was like, that was the lightning bolt for me, where it was just like, boom, yeah, no, it can be done. It's going to be done on top of Bitcoin. And Guy Swan, put it really good for me. He said, like, Bitcoin is the protocol layer, base layer of money for the future. And there's like, the internet protocol, IP, that is the base layer. Like, we don't use multiple internets. We might use all, browsers, like you might use Mozilla or Brave or whatever, or Safari or Chrome, whatever you want. It's the free market. It's built on top of the protocol layer. So once I kind of had that understanding and everything, I like pulled the reins back and was like, yeah, I cannot make a shitcoin. And basically at that point was a Bitcoin maxi. I had that ETH sitting there, and then I interviewed Daniel Prince in February. He was the first person I interviewed for my show, February of 2021. And I actually admitted to him, I said, I actually do have one ETH. And he was like, after we were recording, he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't know. And so I sold it. And was like, that was it. And full-fledged Bitcoin maxi, to the point where, I have partners that are like, hey, we could do a NFT on Movies Plus, or all these things come to me. People pitch things all the time, and it's tempting because I could have taken the money, but I won't do it. But I can see where other people get tempted, and but I've put my stake in the ground and said no, like it's Bitcoin only. And now, freedom of speech wise, if somebody comes with an Ethereum documentary, then I have to let them play it, because I can't take their voice away. My theory behind it is that you won't find many Ethereum documentaries. You don't find them because if you show it, then people will see what it really is, which is complete and total crap. And so, Ethereum is lies. All the shitcoins are full of lies. Bitcoin is truth. So, freedom of speech, something like Bitcoin that's truth, it doesn't matter. You'd be like, yeah, talk about it all you want. The more you talk about it, the more people will see that it's true when you talk about the truth. But, things like Ethereum and any shitcoin, it's like, sitting there in the darkness, and they want to be in the darkness. They don't want the spotlight on them. They don't want people to talk about them. So that's why there isn't, ETH documentaries and everything like that. And you would have to bend over backwards to try and spin it to make it look like it's not the complete and total shitcoin scam that it is. So yeah, I mean, I said a lot.
No, it's great, Cory. No, it's great.
Sorry, I got on a little bit of a rant there. I realized.
No, mate, get involved. That's the whole point of these conversations. The subject's it's just so rich. There's so many angles to it. And freedom of speech, like, what is that? What does that mean? What should it be? What shouldn't it be? As a conversation is massive, right? How do we build society? This is kind of what this whole thing leads you towards. And the truth is, we don't know the answer perfectly per se, but let's try and find out. And as soon as you realize that that's the kind of level playing field that you could work at, like working on freedom of speech, like using film to convey a story has, basically turbocharged what humans previously did, which was sit around campfires and talk and tell stories. Right? You can now visually see someone's depiction of a story, and it's crazy. It's entertainment, but it's also informational, educational, you name it. But the idea that there are some middlemen that have agendas of their own that are able to turn things on and off, or create things that spin things a certain way, like, what do we know? Is it true? Is it not true? What's everything I've learned my whole life? I don't fucking know in some ways. So as soon as you realize that, actually, so Ethereum's that, Bitcoin's this. So if I just stick with Bitcoin, the returns are going to be like extraordinary anyway. And not only that, I then get to engage in a subject as incredible as freedom of speech. Well, yeah, fuck it, drop the shit coins. Like, it's just the most obvious thing ever, right? So Cory, what I'm intrigued to dive into a bit more deeply is, you talked about the woke mob. What does the woke mob mean to you? And then we'll play that into like what Movies Plus can do to perhaps combat what you see as a problem.
The woke mob is the people that are stirred up by people with special interests in driving divisiveness in our culture, in our life, in our world. Um, so the woke mob is, really a fringe group of people that hate to have anything go against what they want. But you know what? Like, that's life. Things don't always go the way you want them to. It's part of life. You just have to suck it up and move on. So if you don't like the fact that somebody called you, referred to you in a way that you don't like, I'm I'm sorry that happened to you. Move on. It's over. So, anyways, it's this fringe group that just cannot accept that they are not being catered to on a 24/7 basis, and they need their voice heard, and they want to live their truth, which is total bullshit, because there is no thing as multiple truths. There's one truth. And so, like, you can live what you call your truth. That doesn't mean that it's real. It doesn't mean it's the truth. Um, I'm not going to interfere with what you want to do in your life. I believe in freedom. As long as what you're doing doesn't infringe on my freedoms, then do whatever you want. I don't care. But there's this group that just can't sit there. Like, they're just not happy. So, like, if they're listening to this, they're probably freaking out on the inside and sitting there and, like, clawing at their skin and, like, ripping their hair out, because they're just so mad, because they're so desperate to be liked and wanted and accepted by everyone else, that they're like, they can't stand, like I said, do whatever you want. They're like, that's not good enough for them. Everyone has to approve of what I am and what I say I am, and everyone has to like me for it. And it's like, that's not how the world works. If you're a straight edge, like Christian versus, like, the complete opposite atheist, it doesn't work that way. Not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody's going to accept you. Get over it. Move on. Why does that matter so much? So that's what the woke mob to me is. And I think basically the powers that be, the 13 powerful families that rule the world, they want to keep the plebs fighting amongst themselves. The old saying of, the king and queen, what do they want to see when they look over the wall of their castle? They want to see people fighting in the streets, because if they're fighting in the streets amongst themselves, they're not going to come after them. So that's what we're seeing with the divisiveness in the woke mob, where, like, they try and drum up the average person to be like, are you against, like, it's like they get really worked up about something, and then they make a generalized statement that, like, really nobody would be against, and they'd be like, are you against that? And you're like, no, like, why would I be against that? And they're like, well, then you're with us, and these people over here are against that. You know what I mean? And, like, they just pit two groups of people against each other, and they try to manipulate you with social media, with the movies that you're watching, with everything you're seeing, and they're trying to slyly put it in there. And it's just like, I won't deal with it. I won't stand for it, because, like, I lived in the city, like, well, not city, but, like, more city than where I'm at now. And, like, you talk about things, we were always going to maybe move out, like, of the more urban areas. We move, like, COVID has opened my eyes to all the bullshit that's out there. And I'm like, I'm moving to where it's not going to affect me. Like, go ahead and try and talk to the schools. Like, you come to the school, you come to the local food, like, market here, than the little town that I moved to now. Good luck trying to convince everybody that your feelings matter. Like, that's the other thing. They're feelings. You feel something. That doesn't mean that you are that. Like, if you feel sad, that doesn't mean you are a sad person. That means you're experiencing sad feelings. Do you want to just be a vegetable? Do you just want to be a cucumber that sits there with no emotions for the rest of your life? I actually enjoy, like, it's not enjoy being sad, but, like, when I feel the ups and downs of life, I'm, like, happy, because it means I'm experiencing things. That means I'm a human. That means I'm not sitting there and I didn't just become a vegetable numb to life, you know? So, you know, part of life is managing the how the feelings affect you and how you move with it. But we're talking about feelings, and you can't affect, I can't help how other people are going to act to me, but I can help, I can control the way that I react to their actions. And that's something that the woke mob has really lost, you know, their mind over. They want to control everything. And it's really this small fringe group that's just going to lose their mind over anything that doesn't go their way, and they're going to completely flip out and throw a tantrum like a 2-year-old. And you know, I mean, what do you do with kids that flip out and try to get their way? What do you do? Do you give them, do you reward them? Well, that's what the current system does. The current system rewards them. It's like, hey, you did it, like you did this, you know, you deserve to be, you know, celebrated and walked around and, you know, paraded around as a hero. And that's we're sending the wrong messages, you know. So like you see the leaked Zoom call of Disney trying to, you know, like groom children. And it's like, you know, I don't know if you saw that, but like Disney Plus was like,
know.
yeah, basically trying to groom children. And it's like, why do kids need to be talking about sex at all? Like, it doesn't need to be a topic. Like that isn't a thing that is in their mind at all. So get the fuck away from them. And I like over my dead body will I let that happen to the kids in my family and the kids and kids in general. Like, if you think you're going to come in here and push your ideology on kids that aren't asking for it, no kid is thinking about sex. No kindergartner is thinking about sex. Why do we have to make it a topic? Like I was just, we were just watching an episode of Modern Family, and I thought it was so well how they did it. The gay couple had their daughter that, you know, they adopted the Asian, the Vietnamese daughter, and she was like maybe 5 years old or something in the episode, and she told Sofia Vergara's character, she told her that she was gay, and like, you know, and she was like, and Sophia was like, oh, what? And so like the parents are talking to her, and she's like, you know, well, you know, you and daddy are gay, so I'm gay, you know, like so and so and so and so's parents are Italian and he's Italian, you know what I mean? And it's like, and I love the way they did that in that episode. And there's probably a lot of like really, really conservative Christians that would get really upset by that, and like, why are you talking about it? But it's like, it presented it in such a good way where it's like, these kids are not thinking about it. They don't, that they're not thinking that way. So why are we pushing that? So it's like, you have Disney who, if they want to try, if Disney wants to implode and completely ruin their business, then go ahead and try and push that crap on kids. But parents will even flock in droves away from them and go towards platforms. I mean, there's other platforms out there, but Movies Plus will be one of them that's sitting there saying like, look, we're freedom of speech. So if somebody wants to push some woke ideology, go ahead, put it up there, but you'll find out that there's not a market for it, because most people don't really think that's normal. There's not a market for these absurd thoughts that they're trying to push out there. And you can't make money off of things that don't really, that don't have a market. You know what I mean? So it's like, go ahead. Like, what do you want to lose money on movies constantly? Like, that's what you see in the box office, you know, and Disney. I mean, they push all this ideology and all these agendas through, and it completely destroys the basis of what entertainment is, which is storytelling. Like, that's where Disney has lost it, because if I won't go on this rant, I promise, but like, Disney completely screwed up Star Wars. To me, Star Wars is real Star Wars, and then Disney's stuff is fan fiction. And it's because they were more concerned with serving agendas. I mean, they went so far as they cast an Asian girl to boost sales in China in one of the movies, and then they found out afterwards that the Asian populations are very racist against each other, and she wasn't Chinese, and because of that, the Chinese were really upset, and it kind of hurt their sales. So it's like, no matter what you do, Disney, it's going to fail. You cannot please everybody. It's not going to happen. And their storytelling is really hurting because of it. I mean, you know, the Marvel movies are, you know, entertaining, but like, they have no substance to them. They're so shallow. and like I remember like in the one like Captain America versus Iron Man movie or whatever it was, Civil War, and like it was like really edgy moment where Tony Stark was like, "I'm gonna punch you in your perfect little teeth," and it's like, "Ooh, wow!" Like we actually almost showed some emotion here, in a Disney movie. So it's just they're focused on the wrong things, and but it's the reason they're focused on the wrong things is because they're getting fed money from these controlling elites that want to push a narrative, and so they don't really see losses, um through things like money printing and all the manipulation. uh People that hold these companies, the shareholders of these companies are the ones all that printed money flowed to, you know and so whether it's Walmart or it's Disney, it's all flowing to them. It's pumping their bags, and continuing to spread widen the wealth gap. And I mean, these people in Hollywood are just so corrupt that, like, I mean, Harvey Weinstein, like, I never had firsthand knowledge of anything, but I heard, like, I mean, if you when I heard the news that came out that he, was being accused of all these things, I was like, 100% guarantee you that's happening. Guaranteed that has been happening for years. Like, I know it. It is such a cesspool. And so it's just, I mean, I kind of hesitated whenever I went into making Movies Plus, because I was like, oh, I'm happy, I'm in the movie business, I make money, and I can maybe have a little bit of a creative influence on things. But if I wanted to make a change in the world, I had to grow some balls and get out there, because like, I came back from LA one time, and I was talking to a priest friend of mine, and he said, "Ooh, you're messing with the devil. Like, devil doesn't like that. Devil's gonna come after you." And I was like, shit. So you just have to stay focused, stay centered, and it is true. There's a lot of evil out there, and a lot of that evil is in this cesspool of Hollywood, but there's a cesspool of politics, there's a cesspool of banking, there's a cesspool in every industry. And it's time to shine a light on them, because you know what? They don't like it. The last thing that my theory on Trump is why he was so hated by everybody is because all Trump was a mirror. He held a mirror up because Trump's a disgusting sleazeball that slept with a porn star while his wife was at home with his newborn. And that's what all of them are. He's one of them. And he held a big mirror up, and they all looked in the mirror. And you know what the devil doesn't like to do? Is look at how ugly he is. And that's exactly what happened. So that's why there was such a fierce reaction whenever he got out there. And I don't know. I mean, I kind of enjoyed watching them flip out and squirm.
It's funny though, when you take a more libertarian philosophy, which inevitably Bitcoin helps to teach you, government is inept everywhere. And
Oh,
to your point about COVID, I mean, it's been a real awakening process for me, just seeing how easily they pulled a few levers and suddenly you're incarcerated in your own home without any choice whatsoever as to your own health. Like, what do you mean I can't decide? Like, is it dangerous? Is it not? Well, I'll decide for myself. Thank you. Oh, to get out of the house, you need me to have a medical experiment. Well, I can decide that for myself. Thank you very much. And whether or not you did or didn't do it, that should be your choice. But if you're locked out the pub, you're not allowed to travel internationally, and in fact, your job's on the line, then hey, that's not really freedom of choice, is it? That's
no.
100% coercion. Yet you've got these fucking moron politicians that stand up on live TV talking about how we've got a free country. It just,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable. And so, thankfully, just in my personal case, it's made me ask some questions that weren't necessarily such big problems in my life, because I was just getting on with life. And then suddenly you get hit in the face. Hang on, what the hell's happening? And you dig a little deeper and you dig a little deeper. And to your point, I mean, I'm loving all the points you're raising. I don't need to jump in at any point, Cory. It's great, because I agree with all of it essentially. What intrigues me is this idea of, as an industry insider in the movie business, there is an obvious incentive model at play, which is effectively like any business, not who's the user, who's the customer. Okay, the customer is the person that pays you. All right, so who's paying Walmart? Who's paying Hollywood? All right, what do they want? Well, I think it probably circles back to your original point, which is that they want people fighting between each other. So they don't pay attention to what's actually going on, which is effectively a centralized money printer that rules the world. And someone can make money out of thin air at the touch of a button, whereas we have to go to work for it. This is the biggest injustice I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's so obvious once you see it. You're like, hang on. So they just print money, give it to their mates, and buy everything before anyone else can get it. And then inflation eats everything. It's just so insanely unfair. You're like, how did we not realize this before? And perhaps it's because of the use of film and media to entertain us. I always love that scene in Gladiator when Commodus becomes president or whatever, and the senators are like, he's smart, give them games, distract them, and you're like, well, that's what the World Cup fucking is, isn't it? Like nation states pitting it out against each other to be the champion of the world, and you're like, well, hang on, what is a country? Why what? Oh, this doesn't make any sense. And then it can actually scare you in a sense, because you're like, now you're questioning everything.
Oh
wow.
yeah.
So I'm intrigued, Cory, in terms of basically we have a lot in common. Great to meet you. Thank you for sharing all of that. Freedom of speech is the ability to say whatever the fuck you want, because you're allowed to say whatever you want. And that then goes into your thoughts. And what you were talking about earlier was that people feel a certain way. Well, that's your thought. Like, I could think about raping and killing small children. I'm not a pedophilic rapist because I had that thought. And you end up in a very dangerous position where people are effectively trying to be the thought police. Because you can't, I feel a certain way, you have to feel it. Well, no, that's actually not true at all. I can feel however I want. And equally, I can think or say whatever I want. And at the other end of the spectrum, you have people who talk about freedom of speech, but it's become hate speech. No, that's not allowed. Well, why do you think this guy's willing to blow himself up and all these people around him? Probably because his kids got shot by some drone halfway around the world. Who knows what the incentive model is. But the point is if you aren't able to say what you feel and think, then it spills into violence. And so if you don't allow freedom of speech on a true sense, then you end up with a violent world, no? And so, I just dive into that a bit more. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
No, 100%, because I mean,
you can think what you want.
Yeah. I'll see what comes out of my head, which probably most of this stuff that I'm saying is going to get me like canceled, put on some kind of list or whatever. But such is life. So I'd rather be who I am than, like whatever they want me to be. So back to the question of, how exactly did you frame that again? It was like the freedom of thought and, sorry, how did you frame that?
I was just saying how, if you're not able to say how you think and feel,
and how it goes into violence.
And so in a world in which people are getting upset because people don't think the same way that they do, at what point does that kind of speed up violence? And the fact that there's someone out there arbitrarily saying, oh, you've now become hate speech, and we're not, hate speech isn't allowed. So, well, hang on, who's policing what hate speech is? And so there's this kind of, you either believe in freedom of speech or you don't, right?
Yeah, exactly. You either believe in it or you don't. And it's essential because we have, as human beings, we have outlets. We feel things, like you said, we feel things, we have thoughts. And they need to be expressed in certain ways. It could be expressed by gardening. It could be expressed by exercising. It could be expressed with words. It could be expressed with many different ways, creatively, artistically. But we can't, it's the more those get bottled up. So the things that you want to say, if you can't say them anymore and you have to stop saying them, even if it's just self-censoring because you're afraid of what's going to happen and YouTube's not going to play this video, you have to, you're basically choking off the exhaust valve of where those thoughts and things are going to go. So what they're going to do is they're going to then come back into your head, and they're going to bounce around in your head and get more aggressive and get more out of control. And then eventually you're either going to explode. I mean, that's like in a relationships and stuff like that, where if you don't say something for a very long time that's bothering you, all of a sudden you just explode and it comes out and it sounds way worse than it's really supposed to really sounds. It's sounds worse than what you even mean, but it's because you built it up in this pressure that's just, and
God,
then all
you're
of a sudden,
fucking bitch.
exactly. And it's like, no, you didn't mean that. Like you didn't. And it's like, so if you try and control that energy that people have created, and it's funny, Bitcoin and energy, all that kind of stuff, but like that energy needs to go somewhere. That needs an outlet. And so if you don't let somebody, if they're angry about something and they can't say something about how they're angry about it, that anger gets internalized and it's going to come up uglier at a later time. So, like you said, where somebody, they don't have an outlet, so they then maybe start resorting to violence. So we have on one hand, the money is completely broken and causing these forever wars. And then freedom of speech and the ability to express yourself is being controlled and manipulated by basically the same people. So both of those things cause a lot of friction in society and like really heat up the tension between people. And that's where the conflict arises. And that's where, you get people that, I mean, just like the things we've seen recently in the news and everything, like people are like, oh, we need mental health outreach and we need to ban guns and we need to do this and that. And it's like, we need to do all of those things. Like, how about we need to do all of those things? Like, we can't ban guns. Good luck. You know what I mean? Like, I love that argument where people are like, get rid of guns. And it's like, you got drugs, cocaine's illegal. People still use it. You know what I mean? Like they're going to find it. Like most of the crime is done with illegally possessed weapons. You know what I mean? Like people will find a way to harm each other. So it's just like, if we have a more open and a free society where people aren't getting taken advantage of, where people are allowed to think what they want to think and have their own freedoms, and then also at the same time not feel like they're on a slippery slope where their money is a melting ice cube underneath them that they're never going to get to the top of the mountain of. I think we'd have a much politer, a much happier, and a much safer society. And and I'll tell you what, I love like the Wild West, when it comes to like violence and stuff. It's like, you're not going to go in and sucker punch somebody in the Wild West because everybody's got a gun. You're not going in and just sucker punching somebody. And like Mike Tyson even said, people, the internet has given the ability, the people the ability to say things without consequences. That's the other thing. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's the other side of the coin, is that people don't want consequences to their actions. And it's like, I have some bad news for you. Your actions do have consequences, good and bad. And you have to face that. You have to accept that. Guess what? You will at some point, whether it's in this world or the next, you'll find out that your actions had consequences. So you can push it off. You can defer it as long as you want. But, so freedom of speech, sure, go ahead and say something to Mike Tyson's face. Find out what happens. There's a reason you don't say that. There's a reason you're not an asshole. There's a reason you're not mean to people, because when you're mean to people and you see the way they reacted, it's a human nature to go, oh, I didn't like that. I didn't like making that person feel that way. That sucked. So I'm not going to do it again. But on the internet, we're just like, it's funny. So we have no freedom of speech. Yet again, we have people that just like anonymously will say whatever the hell they want. And whatever mean things comes into their mind because they never face the consequences.
It's like a total lack of accountability, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. So you need to be able to have freedom of speech, but also have accountability for your actions. For example, if Kevin Hart, Kevin Hart 10 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that, he had homophobic tweets and he apologized for them. And then he announced he was going to be the host of the Oscars. And the Oscars, people found those old tweets and they were like, "Oh, look at him, he's a bigot," and he was like, "I apologized. Like I didn't mean like I don't feel that way anymore," and they canceled him and they wanted him to apologize and bend his knee down to them, and it's like, no. If he did the opposite, if he got announced as the Oscars host and came out with all these inflammatory, bigoted statements, then yeah, his actions have consequences. Cancel him, fire him. If you walk into your job and say mean, insulting shit to everybody, guess what? You're going to get fired. Like that's going to happen. So your actions have consequences, but that doesn't mean that everything you did in the past is something that's a permanent mark against you. You know, we don't believe in people getting better. Do we not believe in reconciliation and people being sorry and giving forgiveness? And, you know, so it's like those things are what are all causing all the problems in society, is the fact that everything you've ever done is, by society standards, a permanent mark against you that you can't wash off no matter what you do to better yourself or make yourself a better person. At the same time, they don't let you say what you really want to say if it doesn't fit their agenda.
It's crazy, isn't it? Wow. And
Maddening.
what's cool, Corey, in a sense, is you're not the first, and you will not be the last person I interview on this podcast that sees a more optimistic future as a result of coming across Bitcoin, which at the end of the day is a tool, right? All tools are used in different ways. You can use a mobile phone to call in some drugs, or you can, call your grandma. Like, is that right? Is that wrong? Whatever. It's a tool. You can use a knife to cook your dinner, or you could stab someone in the heart. They are different, different ways of using a tool. Bitcoin will have all sorts of ramifications as a tool that we haven't yet predicted. But there's no doubt that some of the really glaring issues in modern society today that are caused by the fact that there is someone out there that can make money out of thin air, that will be the incentive model is broken basically when there's a neutral monetary network that people can utilize to store their time and energy in. It's like, okay, cool. Well, you can fund Walmart or Disney or whoever you want for as long as you want. But at the end of the day, unless you've got Bitcoin, you can't pay them. So how are you going to fund your messaging or your setup, whatever it might be? So it's very interesting to think about what these ramifications might be. We're coming up to an hour, Cory, which I normally try to finish up at. Thank you so much for sharing all of your thoughts. It's been really interesting, and I absolutely see not only an opportunity as an early stage business to build something big. You look at Amazon today, and a lot of the value that Amazon is driving is actually AWS. It's got nothing to do with the original business they created. So the idea of leveraging a decentralized computer network that Bitcoin is, in order to become a system that cannot be switched off, with information dissemination on top, i.e. entertainment or educational, whatever it might be. Awesome opportunity. Like, I don't know what the valuation of Amazon is today, but I'm sure I saw a report recently that 75% of the valuation of Amazon is AWS.
Oh yeah.
So when you
100%.
talk to a venture capitalist, you want to say, look at the value of AWS. That's what we can try and get, but on a decentralized nature. You think, okay, that's a really interesting market to go after. And then obviously there are the nice to haves, which is philosophically, there'll be investors out there that will align with your view of the world and think, yeah, damn right, it's absolute bullshit that this is going on. Let's fund a new tool that's on top of this nascent technology, Bitcoin, that will help to improve that situation. So I see a very bright future there. So good luck.
Thank you.
Last question, Cory, is really like about the future, basically. So,
and you don't have to cap it. I mean, I'm sorry, I really going on with my answers.
No. I think I like an hour because people can sit down, they can get a snapshot into someone's life, and if they want to learn more about you or whatever, they can go down the hole and have a look at your podcast, etc.
They can ask me, I'll say it.
But equally, I've got my fiat mining job is ticking in the background, so I've got to get some work done. But the future, Cory. So what does the future have in store? You're building Movies Plus. Just talk to me a bit about how you see the next couple of years playing out.
So Movies Plus, I think, over the next couple of years will continue to grow. I mean, it's going to win no matter what on its own, because it's, like, we're cash flow positive and things like that. Like, if somebody comes in with money and we can maybe ramp it up, then great. I'd be willing to listen. But I think what's going to happen is that I'm going to keep building it steadily the way we are. I think the plebs are going to really support it. And we're going to continue to tell stories. So like what I want to do is tell good stories. And one thing we want to do is make the Ross Ulbricht movie, but make the real Ross Ulbricht movie about what really happened. And doing it all with his mother's blessing. Like letting her say, yeah, that's what happened. Not like make sure that it's not some,
propaganda.
Propaganda against him. So, movies like that is what we want to make. But so I'd say in like 2 years, we're probably, maybe 10 original movies in. And we're probably clicking, at like north of 1 million subscribers and starting to pick up steam to go against everybody, against the big guys, and take them down, because I mean they're in so much debt that like it's going to be easy to take them down. That's the benefit, is I know that they're in debt. I know how much money they Netflix and everybody owes. Like if they've been playing this game of pushing it off into the future as much as possible. So we'll start taking them on probably in 2 to 3 years. But ultimately what I see, happening with Movies Plus is that this is going to be a billion-dollar company because of, exactly like you said, because of the decentralized server farm. It's going to be open source, so anybody can use it, but we will have the first mover advantage, and we'll also have the advantage because we developed it. We were, essential to the development. We were, a part of the development and helped roll it out. But it'll be like Bitcoin, where like once it's out there, like we can control it. Like Satoshi made it, and then Bitcoin went out there to the world, and it is what it is. Like I can't, so eventually Movies Plus will release this, and it will be free and open source for everyone to build on and collaborate. And ultimately, maybe probably 15 years from now, I'd like to say it would be like 7 years, 7 years, but definitely by the time I'm retired, it'll be when Bitcoin is the standard base layer of money for the world. This server farm will be the standard base layer of the way that information is stored and transmitted throughout the world.
Wow. Lofty ambitions. Let's get going. That's what it's so cool about Bitcoin. Big idea, like huge. Like the idea that we can have, what is it? It's effectively a library, right? A library that is digital, decentralized, and you cannot switch it off.
Think about it, like you can't burn books anymore.
Yeah,
all
right.
the digital books would be hosted
digital
by
printing press that can never be deleted.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You have 10 million people running nodes around the world that have this library on it. You're never deleting the library. You're never burning books again.
Wow. Oh, well, good luck, my friend. Good luck. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. It's been excellent. Cory, last question is, where can people get in touch if they want to reach out?
If they want to reach out, I'm pretty active on Twitter. It's at Cory_Tucek. So it's CORY_TUCEK. And then the Bitcoin Made Simple has a Twitter handle. It's a Bitcoin Simply. But yeah, we have the podcast on all the available networks. And then Movies Plus is mymoviesplus.com, but it also has a Twitter account, which is My Movies Plus. And I think there's like Instagram, whatever. I'm not the social media person there, but but it has all those things. And we're constantly adding new content on Movies Plus and getting new movies. And there's 5 Bitcoin documentaries on there now. And we're adding more because obviously me being a Bitcoiner, when I'm acquiring movies, I end up finding more Bitcoin movies.
Wonderful. All right, well, thanks so much for your time, Cory. Really appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.